What's going on? It's your girl Mariah. You're now tuned into Survival Kid Business. Today is May the 12th, 2022. As we all know, if you don't know now, you know May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I'm rocking my shades of green in solidarity with those going through, have overcame, or have succumbed to mental health issues. All right, so shout out to all y'all. Have some family, have some friends go through mental health issues. I know what it looks like. I've had my fair share of teenage depression. I think a lot of us had some teenage depression, but for those who have been diagnosed, for those who have chronic mental health issues, I just want to say, hang in there. You got this. I love you if nobody else love you, and I really mean that. I really mean that. I love all y'all. I don't like a few people, you know. I don't like a few people, but I love everybody. Got nothing but love for everybody. I have a book called Bad Day. Bad Day was my first step in kind of touching mental health issues. So if you need a copy, let me know. I got them. I'm going to add them to the website that I'm currently working on for Survival Kid Business. All right. So let's hop right into the episode. Last week, we talked about perfectionism and how that can affect the minds of entrepreneurs, right? So in entrepreneurship in this space, we deal with a lot of mental health issues. And so I wanted to tackle different mental health issues that entrepreneurs face and different ways that I deal with it, have helped others deal with it. You know, I'm a little bit of this, a little bit of that to a lot of people. I love helping people. And so I've come up with a few different solutions for certain problems that entrepreneurs face. I manage clients. And so you deal with your client, you're dealing with the client's family, you're dealing with the client's emotions. You're really taking on a lot. You're like a business parent in a sense. And so I take on a lot when it comes to my clients. Absolutely love my current clients I'm working with right now. So yeah, last week we talked about perfectionism and how we get through that, and the acronym was LEAD. This week, of course, I got another acronym because I love acronyms. This week, we're talking about anxiety. All right. This week, we're talking about anxiety. Quote of the day: although anxiety is a part of life, never let it control you. Although anxiety is a part of life, never let it control you. There's always going to be times where you're anxious. That's normal, all right? When that anxiousness starts to grow and fester, that's when it becomes what we call a mental health issue. All right. So, what is anxiety? Let's break it down. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. Uncertainty is the word I want you to pay attention to. All right. So, again, anxiety is something that we all face, all adults. About Statistics say that almost every adult will face some type of anxiety in their life, whether it be chronic or acute anxiety. And so what I found interesting is that, so I talk to the corporate disruptors and the pavement innovators, right? So we talk to the corporate folks, we talk, which I like to call them entrepreneurs, and then I talk to the entrepreneurs, the pavement innovators. Shout out to y'all. I have a special place in my heart for y'all. I aspire to be there one day. Right now I'm 50-50 because, I like to use my day job to fund my dream job. And so it is what it is, right? So shout out to all of those who are taking on both roles. I know you're tired. I'll be tired too, but I absolutely love it. So, that's just a side note. All right, so back to the stats. 45% of entrepreneurs and 42% of other workers or entrepreneurs, or those who don't have an entrepreneurial job, say that they experience anxiety. The difference is that an entrepreneur, in my opinion, works deadline to deadline to deadline. We work on deadlines. Whereas an entrepreneur, you work in quarters. You work yearly, bi-yearly, quarterly. You work on dates. And so you have time to really gauge, in my opinion, you have time to gauge the amount of emphasis you need to put on certain projects, because by a certain date this thing needs to be done. Well, entrepreneurship is a little different. We're working on deadlines, and we have to create these deadlines, and that's a little bit different than being handed a deadline from your leadership. All right, so there are some nuances. And then when you take a look deeper into that statistic, I want to say about 70% of those entrepreneurs, of that 45%, about 70% of the entrepreneurs have a clinical, either a clinical mental health issue like anxiety, or they have genetics. So someone in the family has that anxiety disorder. And so there's a few nuances that go into these statistics. So although it looks as if the average American or adult goes through some type of anxiety, it's even more prevalent with entrepreneurs because of the amount of pressure and things that need to be done that get placed on us. All right. So I was doing some math, and in the US, there are about close to 260 million adults, right? Close to 260 million. It might be a few million shy. And so if you break that down, 30% of those adults have or will face chronic anxiety. And I thought that was very interesting because of the entrepreneurial population. And so, you can always take numbers and skew them to kind of fit your narrative, but I like to keep it very simple. 30% of 260 million is closer to 50% than it is 0%, right? So closer, it's almost closer to half of that population will experience anxiety. To me, that's very deep. That's very, very deep. And especially when you're an entrepreneur, because we go through so many mental gymnastics to get these goals and these dreams done, get these ideas out of our head and actually into execution. Um, Everybody has ideas, everybody has dreams, but to actually execute on that, it's a little different. All right, so with anxiety, I want you to think about it as it's a fear. You're anxious. You ever been anxious, like you're fearful, like you feel some of the kids I used to mentor called it flutterflies. You ever get those flutterflies, like, yo, son, my stomach is bubbling. That's a form of anxiety. So, you know, I know people like to equate dating, like, oh, they give me butterflies. Man, there's you get some anxiety about that. There's something in you is a little anxious. And there there is a fine line, right? So a little bit of anxiety is not bad. For me, I get this feeling. For example, I'm working on another book that I'm writing. It's gonna kind of be self-help for entrepreneurs. And when I write chapters, if I don't get that anxious feeling when I'm writing the chapter, I know it's not a good chapter. I just know it, like in my gut. I get that anxious feeling. I'm like, you know what, let's scrap it. Let's put it to the side. Let's work on this a little bit more. Let's dissect this chapter and kind of tweak it some more to get it where it needs to be. And then I get that feeling. I'm like, okay, this is good. Let's move on to the next thing. So there is some good levels of anxiety, but if it paralyzes you or becomes your thoughts become invasive to the point where you cannot move on what you're supposed to be doing, that's when you're over that line. All right. So think about it. Some examples of anxieties like PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. There is obsessive compulsive disorder, and there is also panic attacks. And so these are different ways that anxiety can show up. I used to work for the Veterans Affairs. So working with veterans, shout out to all the veterans out there. Absolutely love y'all. Veterans go through a lot of different mental issues simply because of the life that they live as, being soldiers. And so I really got to understand the mental health issues that people go through. And being in entrepreneurship, I am able to pinpoint, like, oh, that's what that is, because of the experience that I've had with some of the vets that I've worked with. All right, it's nothing to be worried about. Now that you know, or now that you have an idea that maybe I am going through some anxiety, once you figure it out, to me, half the battle is won, right? So you can kind of breathe a little bit and now formulate a game plan for how you're going to deal with this type of anxiety. We don't want to stick with it, right? So to me, anxiety, again, it's like a fear. It's a fear of rejection, a fear of uncertainty. It's a fear of failure. To me, failure is it's a mental battle. A lot of people think that that failure is like the end all be all. To me, it's not. To me, failure is just you had a goal, you didn't meet that goal, and so you didn't meet the goal. But to me, to say that I failed or you failed is very deep. But we've been taught this, especially in the educational system. If you get an F, you failed. If you get a D, you failed, right? You have to get an A, you have to get a B. Those who have gotten A's were treated differently. I was a good student. I was just good at school. I just happened to have that gift, or the gift of being good at school, because not everybody has it. And so I always noticed that my friends who, they were kind of good at school but not great at school, but still liked school, a little bit. I don't think anybody really likes school. I didn't really like school. I just happened to be kind of good at it. I noticed the difference in treatment. And so we're accustomed to this. Parents even do it to children sometimes. Oh, you're a failure. Why don't you be more like your brother? Why don't you be more like your sister or your aunt, your uncle, your cousin? I like your friend. Why don't you be more like them? They're winners. You're failing at life. We're always taught these different things that we're not good enough. And so we begin to feed ourselves that. And so I do think mental health issues is definitely a lonely journey, simply because it's you and your thoughts, and your thoughts can kind of run away from you. And in business, it can be very difficult because of all the pressures that we have, financial pressures, uh, you know, deadlines, trying to meet those deadlines, because all you have is your word. And, you don't have a manager backing you. You don't have another employee, a colleague backing you. You kind of have your word, maybe a business partner. You might be at the place where you have a team, but it's kind of you and what you got. And you're just hoping that this business venture works out. And so things can get a little bit stressful. All right. So, uncertainty is okay. The natural way we think and move is to resist change. Humans don't like change. We don't like anything different. And that's natural, but you gotta push past that, all right? And that rejection is gonna come. People are gonna reject you. Everybody wants to feel loved. I talked about it in a previous episode. Everybody just wants to feel loved, but rejection is just, it's gonna happen, and you have to be okay with that. You might be scared to ask for some funding for your business. You might be going up for seed rounds, and you might be having anxiety that you're going to get rejected. You might be looking to partner with somebody that that's in your same field, that's in your neighborhood, that and you might have a fear that they'll reject the idea or steal the idea. Anxiety comes in all different shapes and forms, and so it's up to you really to pay attention, and also pay attention to those around you who might mention it. Like, yo, stop, you so anxious, you need to chill. I had a friend, they were a chef, and they were so terrified that people weren't going to like their food. And I'm like, yo, no one knows how the food tastes if you don't cook it. Like, you actually got to go cook it. Let's do a pop-up shop. Put your food out there and see if it hits. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But make sure you do a questionnaire, see what people like, why they didn't like it. They were so anxious. Sad to say, they do not cook anymore. I wish they would have continued it. I personally like the food. They had a different spin on a lot of dishes, but there's always tomorrow. So hopefully they get back in the swing of things, but it's okay if you get rejection. Rejection is not always a bad thing. To me, it's a bounce back game plan. Like, okay, they didn't like it that time, I'm gonna come back harder next time. That's just my opinion. All right, so my belief, is that a lot of these issues are self-inflicted, but it's okay, because now that you realize it, you got to move forward. Okay, so I always have my acronyms. I love acronyms. They're cool. They help you remember things, and it's something easy to remember. Okay, so again, it's all right if you're a little anxious with change and uncertainty and rejection. You might get rejected. A business might quote unquote fail, so you might not have enough money to keep it going. But that's okay. You want to know why? Because during that time of you doing that business, I'm sure you've made connections. And so leverage that connection to a new venture. You got to pivot. It's all about the pivot, all right? So let's get into the acronym. My acronym is RELAX. You got to relax. Just breathe in and breathe out and relax. All right. So starting with R. R is recharge. Recharge every day. You have to wake up in the morning and choose to be refreshed. Okay. Sleep helps. Obviously, we all need our sleep. But you got to actively choose to recharge. So I like to pray and do some meditation in the morning. The other day, some issues going on with one of the cars, and I had to go get some air in the tire, and I took the pit with me. I took Farrell with me, and it was a nice ride. It was just like the morning breeze. The sun was out. He was looking at all the kids going to school out the window. It was just nice. It felt like I was refreshed, all from the morning breeze, right? Recharge. You gotta recharge. I had some good music playing. It was a good thing. It was a good thing. All right. So recharge. The R in relax is recharge. The E, evangelize. I'm not talking about in a spiritual sense. I mean, you literally need to evangelize to yourself. When I used to live in my first place that I got, I was up the Northeast, and I used to have sticky notes that I hung all around my house. And so in every bathroom, it was 2 bathrooms, and in every bathroom, I had sticky notes on the mirrors of just great things to say, things that I would read to myself every morning. I had some sticky notes on the door, so when I woke up and I opened the door, boom, there's a sticky note right there on the back of the door. I had to see it on my way out. I had to constantly preach to myself and evangelize to myself. You can make it. You are a winner. You are going to be great. You are excellent. You know that reel that's going around. I will be one of the greatest. That is a vow. Yeah, that is a promise. I like that. That's a good thing. Oh, there was another one that I absolutely loved. It was Ching 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 goes the money tree, and every time it chings, money comes to me. I absolutely love that kind of stuff because you have to speak kindness to yourself. You have to speak goodness to yourself. Business can be hard. You have to be kind on yourself, all right? Evangelize to yourself, all right? And the L is laugh. I absolutely love laughing. I watch all kind of comedy. It's my favorite genre, comedy. I don't like all kind of comedy. I don't like goofy comedy. Like goofy comedy is not my kind of comedy, but like it's hard. I like Bernie Mac. I'll I'll say it like that. I like Bernie Mac. He's hilarious. Uh, Cedric the Entertainer, hilarious. I like a few of Steve Harvey stand-ups. I just Monique. I was a big Queen of Comedy fan when I was little. So you know, I like to watch funny videos. There is this one TikTok of this dog that gets dressed up. Like they dress it as a nurse, as an old lady going to bingo. I think it's hilarious, and so I watch that every time I feel bad. There's this another video of this guy singing the dream. I'm a big Golden Girls fan. Shout out to Cheney. That's the only thing that used to be on some nights of school, so I would just turn on Golden Girls. Loved it. Absolutely loved Blanche. And so there's this guy, he redoes the theme song, and it's so funny to me. And I used to watch it. Every time I was irritated, I would put it on, and it never failed. I would laugh every single time. Call up the homie that's the funny homie. Like, yo, bro, sis, I'm going through it. Like, I need to laugh. Like, I need your help. Talk to me. You need those people around you or those different things that you can do to make yourself laugh. Laughter is the best medicine. It's medicine for the soul. I do believe in that. Laughter makes everything feel all right. Have you laughed recently to the point where you have cried? If you haven't, you should. That's the good kind of laugh. It makes you forget about what you're going through. So laugh is definitely a part of the relax. All right. And the A is advert. Advert your attention back to the goal. It's to literally draw it out of the goal to get your mind going back to where you were. What is the reason why you started what you're doing? What's the reason why you get up every morning? All right. This is Survival Kid Business. We are survivalists. All right. You are a survivor. And so you want to remember that. You want to advert your mind back to the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you in business in the first place? Right? This is a business podcast, so I'm always going to bring it back to entrepreneurship and business. Entrepreneurship and the goal that you might have at your job. What is the goal? Always avert your attention back to that. Take that back in. Look at the glass as half full. Remember when you first thought of that goal and how excited you were? Gotta bring your mind and your attention back to that, all right? And the X, exit. That means get out of Dodge whenever there is a bad conversation. I hate gossip. It's not my favorite conversation. I try to stay away from gossip as much as possible. I do like a little celebrity gossip. It's always fun. I mean, they're rich. Like, what could y'all possibly be going through? That's kind of how I like to think of it. But they're humans too, and they go through things, and nobody wants to be talked about, right? I can't stand gossip. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite conversation piece. So I tend to stay away from that. People who talk like they're broke all the time, people who say I don't got it. I had to work on that myself. People who are negative, people who call themselves ugly, it almost, my spirit can't link with you because I don't think that way. Like, to me, I look good. To somebody else, I might not look so good, but that's their opinion. My opinion is I look good. And so, again, I evangelize to myself. I talk to myself every day. You look great today. You look good today. You smell good today, right? So, if people aren't talking like that about themselves, or it's up to you to point that out, hey, don't talk about yourself like that. But if they're adamant on that, you got to get out of that. If they're adamant on gossip, you got to get out of there. If they're adamant on this is the reason why everything is woe is me around me and I'm not going to do anything to change it, you got to get out of there. So exit. Make sure you're staying away from that kind of stuff, because the environment you put yourself in is what you'll eventually become. Right? It's the atmosphere. What type of atmosphere are you in? If it's a negative atmosphere, you got to get out of there. Right? So the ways that, just a start. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a clinical person. I'm not accredited for that. I'm a business accredited kind of person. I'm a businesswoman. But everybody goes through things, and sometimes you got to help yourself. And the way I help myself is I tend to just relax. All right? Relax. Recharge every morning. Evangelize to yourself. Speak nicely to yourself. Speak positivity and power into yourself. Laugh. Laughter is good medicine. Avert your mind back to the reason why you got started, and exit those bad conversations in those dark rooms where they're not doing anything but talking death and destruction. Get around some life-changing type of people, some life-changing conversations, all right? Relax. I like that acronym. That's a good one. I should put that on a t-shirt. All right. I'm your girl, Mariah. Thank you so much for listening. Again, to all of those who are dealing with mental health issues, who have overcame their mental health issues, and those who have succumbed to their mental health issues, nothing but love, peace, and positivity towards you, your family, and anybody else who's kind of going through with you, all right? If you feel like you're alone, you're not, hit me up. I'll talk to everybody. I'll sit and chat with you, all right? Nothing but love. Love you. Peace.